Hi folks, you're with Tasteless today at your pushback channel. Thank you for joining this live stream chat. And in this chat, I'd like to talk about how there's a new form of despair that's gripping the Western civilization and the Western populace and the Western citizenry. And this was well on the way before there was any pandemics, health pandemics around. So, and I think the health pandemics added, if you like, to the despair. But it was certainly well on the way before this came along. So, let's have a little look at that. And there are some commentators, in fact, many commentators, are casting around in the mainstream media. They're either pretending it doesn't exist, or they're trying to, and this is from a globalist script, they're trying to direct the discord away from the real causes and foster and foment tribal conflict, race conflict, gender conflict, and say that it's all a big capitalist issue. If capitalism was gone, everything would be fine, and focusing on the equal outcomes issues and so on. So they're trying to deflect away from the real causes. And so let's have a look at some of those causes there, because they all form strands of a rope that's being used to throttle and hang Western civilization. And their attacks on the Western civilization are coming from every conceivable angle at the moment, and particularly attacks on white people. So let's go through some of this. Now, young people today, and if we look at the Antifa mobs and some of the street mobs that appear, they mostly, not all, but mostly seem to be young people, and the people that are over the sort of out of the young person age range tend to be teachers and college academics and other professional agitators from NGOs and the like. The despair that the younger people are expressing has real causes and real roots. For example, the amount of jobs in Western civilization that pay enough money to live a somewhat comfortable lower middle class type lifestyle, those sort of jobs in 1970, around 70% of people, pretty much anyone who had a full-time job, whether it be classified as a working class job, but anyone who had a full-time job could live okay. They could have an okay. They wouldn't live in poverty, provided they weren't silly and blow their money on parties or something like that. So anyone who had a full-time job could live a comfortable lifestyle, could afford to buy a modest house and have children and so on. Now, that's changed to fewer than a quarter of jobs can deliver that sort of lifestyle. And really, if we take away the use of the credit cards and the sort of debt and amount of credit that didn't exist 30, 40, 50 years ago, and we look at lifestyles that are propped up by debt and by inheritance, in reality, that the net amount of jobs that pay enough to live a decent lifestyle have fallen from all full-time jobs, or pretty much all full-time jobs, down to maybe 10% of full-time jobs. So most children coming out of or young adults rather, coming out of, say, graduating from high school and going to college, they're looking at far fewer opportunities. Out of every 10 jobs that are out there, only one job is going to pay a decent lifestyle. So these young kids are going to be relying completely on inheritance. Now, in the event of the high divorce rates, which have occurred again, really that's a fairly recent sort of thing. As I was at school, which isn't that long ago, for goodness sakes, there was, I think, maybe out of 150 kids, there was half a dozen that came from divorced situations or divorced families. And yet today that's as high as 50%. So there have been vast changes in sort of social structure around family units and the structure of the family unit itself. So we're looking at young people who've had no sort of solid family background, no real family guidance. Most children haven't had or many, as much as half, haven't had a father at home. Big effect on boys and girls, that creating already a frustrated anger as they go into young adulthood. Then they're being sort of dragooned or pushed into college to get worthless and then they're being sort of dragooned or pushed into college to get worthless and useless degrees that leave them in debt, sometimes quite considerable debt. So we can have someone who's done some bullshit peace studies degree or lesbian dance major or something like that. They could still leave college in debt for 50, 60,000 bucks. Only to find that the best jobs they can get are sweeping floors in a takeout food shop or something like that. They'll never pay that debt. They'll be in debt for the rest of their life, so they've got no possibility of being attractive to a marriage partner, being able to make a life, buy property, have children, have a family situation, and that sort of thing. So all the things that they aspire to, whether it be endless amounts of consumer goods and international travel, they're just not going to have the means to do it. They're going to be living in a state of paycheck to paycheck poverty for pretty much the rest of their lives. So if you look at the future these people are looking forward to, it's not bright. It's not a bright future. There's a sense of futility about the future. Now, instead of looking at the building blocks and the hard situations that have given them or created these problems for them, they should be sitting back and asking their politicians and asking their academics, asking their lecturers at college, well, where have all these good jobs gone? Why has the cost of living increased so much that I can't live the same life that my folks or my grandparents did? Why is my standard of living now lower than theirs was? Why do I have the illusion of plenty only through masses of credit, whether it's massive national debt being chalked up on a national basis, or whether it's personal or individual debt and so on. But they don't have a net spending power out of their paycheck to be able to go out and live a decent lifestyle. Now, it wasn't unusual, certainly in my era, for people who, before they were 30, to have bought a house and to have two children going to school, and maybe not necessarily a fully dependent wife, but say a wife working part-time, maybe in some cases full-time. But there was still a lot of jobs out there that allowed someone to have a dependent wife and children. So we're looking at a number of things, a number of roads that are all sort of coming together and meeting at a crossroads here, and reduced purchasing power in jobs, the drastically reduced number of jobs that can have the purchasing power to afford what we would hitherto have considered a middle-class lifestyle. That the college debt, the vast amount of college debt. If you look at the increase in college fees, students should be asking, not bail me out, taxpayer, in terms of student debt, but why is debt so high? Why are these degrees that are so useless in helping me get a job, the student? Why are these degrees so expensive? Like anybody who's buying something or paying for something, if the degree gives them a good passport to a well-paying job, then fine. Then it's money well spent, but it's not. It's a big debt that drives them right into working at the takeout chicken shop and those sorts of things. Jobs that are never going to pay the sort of money that they're going to need to live a decent lifestyle. So all these strands are coming together: reduced opportunity, reduced number of well-paying jobs, increased cost of living, high cost of tuition fees. And all these things are coming together to create a situation where the younger citizen, older citizens too, for that matter, middle-aged, are looking at the future with a sense of futility. They're just not going to be able to afford to live the sort of lifestyle, and anything they want to acquire has to be acquired on the basis of taking on debt, which just simply kicks the standard of living can down the road. It doesn't actually solve anything. So these are things but instead of asking these questions or querying it, the younger people are being put into a situation where and NGO agitators and all sorts of agitators are getting involved. And he's saying, well, the issue is that the whole system is bad, that the reason black people have a lower standard of living than they did 20 years ago is because of white supremacy, it's because of white fragility, it's this or it's that, and just picking at things that really are not relevant or germane to the root causes, far from it. But there's a lot of money being spent at the political level, at the academic level, and certainly at the NGO level to direct this sense of futility, this sense of despair over the future, to direct it into attacking each other. It's them damn white folks what did it. It's the capitalists that did it. It's so on. It's this. It's that. And really, it's not necessarily any of those things. What's been forced upon the Western citizenry has been particularly concocted by the big financial institutions, what we would today loosely call the globalists and or the deep state. So that's where the problems generally are coming from. There was no need for houses, residential houses, to increase in price 100-fold over the last 50 years, while wages were only increasing 10-fold. So there's no reason for that other than to have an organised and concerted misinvestment in certain resources, certain areas of the economy. So these are some of the things that why despair, firstly, why the despair is in place, but also why little is being done. There's no attempt or desire on the part of those who potentially have the power to do it. There's no intention or desire to solve these problems. Far from it. For example, the so-called remedies to alleged global warming and global climate change, these sort of things, they all involve additional costs being placed upon the very people who are most in despair about the future and the cost of living. So again, the younger people say, oh, hey, hold on a minute, it's all right solving the planet's climate problems, but why are China and India allowed to create as much pollution as they want? Why is it only the white West that has to do something about it? And why must it come out of our standard of living? Why must it involve a wealth transfer away from white people, for example? These are things that need to be asked. And if we look at the wealth transfers that are going on, whether it's offshoring jobs to China and India, whether it's bringing masses of third world people into the West to depress wages. All these things are issues, but rather than the young person saying, oh, well, look at all these workers coming in depressing my wages, instead they've been trained to scream racist at anyone that points it out, what's going on. So they've been mind screwed and rewired to see the problem from completely the wrong end and to see the wrong problems and the wrong causes to the problems. And so instead this has created a situation of mass social destabilization and internal conflict in the West, which didn't need to exist. It's been completely organized and orchestrated by those who particularly are responsible for the issues that are making the younger people and others despair as to the future and their own role and possibilities within it. You've been with Tassos today, and thank you for listening.